Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees from Srila Mayapur. This is our adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. And today we're continuing our discussion with meeting in Kurukshetra. This is part 15 and part 9 of what happened in Mathura. Today we're going to go further. We might even finish, I'm not sure, with the discussion about what Krishna had to say with Nanda Maharaja and what Nanda Maharaja replied. So before we begin, we'll say a few prayers. Gora Graganya Gana Gota Goloduharam Goranga Guda Tamagopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavadam Satatam Namami Narayanam Namaskrityam Naramschaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Vedi Ramayaneschaiva Purane Bharate Tata Adavante Chamadye Chahari Saivatra Giyate Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka Name Vandavela Parikori Be Chakadola Se Chakadolanga Padaye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Mote Dada Radha Dava Mote Dada Radha Dava Mote Dada Radha Dava Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So this is our daily adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're speaking about the meeting in Kurukshetra, part 15. I want to welcome Madhupati Prabhu and my dear Raghava Pandit Prabhu and Sanjay and the other devotees who are taking part. If anybody has any reflections or comments, we really like that, because Krishna Katha is meant to be paraspara. It's meant to be back and forth. It's not that the Vaishnavas want to give a lecture and speak down to someone, but it's meant to be shared. That's Krishna Katha. So we've been speaking about what happened in Mathura and why didn't Krishna return with Nanda Maharaj. And the 45th chapter, the 10th canto, the first verse describes the Nijamayam Tatana Jana Mohinim. That Krishna, with his own Nijamaya, his illusory potency, he bewildered Vasudeva and Devaki and made them forget that he was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Vaishnav Toshini, to repeat what we mentioned in our last couple of sessions, he says the meaning of this actually is, I offer my respects to the Lord's power, which can force the jivas to behave, and which was so powerful, it was able to send Nanda Maharaj back to Braj. That's an amazing thing. And so we heard something from Gopal Campu. Today we're going to sing from a very wonderful song by the poet Chandidas, a very little known song, which we translated just for these kathas. Just to look back again a little bit the members of the Yadu dynasty, they requested Krishna and Balaram to stay. And then Krishna and Balaram went to speak to Bappa. They went to speak to Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj began to cry and said, no, in Vraja, everyone is afraid because of possible separation from you. Whereas in Mathura, they're afraid of these demons. I don't know what to say. And Nanda Maharaj, then he decided, well, Krishna, if you're going to stay, then I'll also stay. And then Krishna said, but Bappa, what about Mata? What about Mother? Then Nanda Maharaj said, then I'll also bring her here. And Krishna said, if you do that, then everyone in Vraja will die. Then I'll bring everyone from Vraja to here. And then Krishna said, Bappa, what about the cows? And we spoke about how from one purport in the 12th chapter of the 10th canto, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna had over 100 quadrillion cows. And that's just the calves, Vishwanath says. The older cows are much, much greater. And we spoke something about how we can understand that and how we can understand Prabhupada's statement that Ugrasena had only 10 quadrillion soldiers as personal bodyguards, 100 quadrillion cows. The cows far outnumber the bodyguards. And the explanation offered by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that the Dham is unlimited, and even one speck of sand in Vrindavan Dham is sufficient to accommodate billions of universes. And what to speak of a few 100 quadrillion cows? That's nothing. So we'd like to go today now to discussion primarily from a couple books which we translated from. One is this song by Chandidas, which we'll start with, and the other is a book by Mahanambrata Brahmachari which our Guru Maharaj liked his writings very much, and he spoke some from this book, Acarya Samvad. So Chandidas, he sings. Ekata suniya Balaram mukhe Nandira vedana ati Jena achambite asiya Chedi marama bada jatati. So Nanda Maharaj, Chandidas says that Balaram came and spoke to him. Krishna couldn't bear to speak to Nanda Maharaj about this, Chandidas is implying. And because of the words of Balaram, Ekata Shunya, when he heard that, Balaram Mukhe Nandara Vedana Ati. Vedana means great pain, agony. Those words of Balaram were very, very painful for Nanda Maharaj. Jena Chambita Asi. Asi means like a sword. And then we heard these words, it was just like a sword penetrating his heart. Nahini Barana Nishturavachana Shavane Sunila Jabe Vyatati Payamuchita Hoya Darani Padalata Be. When Nanda Maharaj heard these words, which Chandidas describes as Nistura. Nistura means very cruel, very horrible words. Shavane Shunila Java. When he heard these words, Vyatita Paya Murchita, with great pain, he fell down on the ground, Dharani Padalatabi, unconscious. And then Krishna and Balaram picked him up, and Nanda Maharaj regained external consciousness. And then Nanda Maharaj spoke to them again. Eje tomara manite achila rahite mathura puri rakiya ekani hiyara putuli Kemone jaibe gare. Nanda Maharaj told him that Achila Rahita Madhurapuri, you've decided you want to remain here in Mathura. What can I say about that? But Rakiya ekane, how? Ekane hiara putuli kemani jabe gari. How can I return? Ekane means there. Ekane is ekane. How can I return? You decided to stay here. Rakiya ekane. Rakiya means to stay and be fixed. But how can I return to Braj without you, who are the darling of my heart? Kiba loya, anu kiba loya, jaba kiba je boli beloke, Yashoda rohini gopera ramani, kitara boli bemoke. And he asked Krishna, Kiba loya, what am I going to say when I go back? What will the devotees in Vrindavan say? Yashoda Rohini Gopala Ramani Ki Taraboli Bimo. What will Yashoda, Rohini, and all the cowherd people of Braj, what will they say? Chandidas Koya Sonanandaraya Kiyara De Katumi Shakata Atana Kora Sajana Balamate Jani Ami. Chandidas, then he says, listen Nandarai, Ko Shona Nandarai, Ki Ara Deka Hatumi. What are you looking for? Shakata Atana Koraho Sajana Balamate Jani Ami. Ami Jani Ami. He says, I know very well you're going to have to leave Mathura without Kanu. Nanda Maharaj was in a half-dying condition, hearing the words of Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna then came and sat down by the side of his Bapa, his father, and he began to caress Nanda Maharaj's body and his face, and he said, Bapa, you go back to Braj before the hearts of the Brijbasis break due to my separation. And you take back with you all the boys and your brothers and others who have come with you here to Mathura. You give solace to them. And don't have any doubt, I definitely will go back after I've settled this problem of the Yadavas. When he heard this, Nanda Maharaj lost his patience and he began to sob and cry. And Chandidas describes in another song Nanda Maharaj's words at that time. Tadraksha raksha apnasami patosman mamucha nija katanchana. He said, Raksha, hey Kanu, save us. Don't separate us from you. When you're willing to return to Vrindavan, then we'll go with you. I can't go back without you. Atmachaya tatra jadaprayasyasi tvatsanga yasmasa deva havaya. Nanda Maharaj said, listen, my son, I promised your mother, I promised her that I won't return to Vrindavan without you. She's staying alive by my promise. How can you speak like this? Your words are like a thunderbolt. It must be my heart is very, very hard. Otherwise, I would already have died from what you're saying. If I go back without you, all the residents of Vrindavan will definitely die. When Krishna heard this, he was quiet. And then Nanda Maharaj, he said, Gopal, what is there left here for you to do? I think everything's finished. And then Krishna, he said, Bapa, I grew up as your child in your very warm, loving home. And I just spent all my days playing. But now things have changed. And I'm in a very complicated, politically disturbed place. And now all my duties, they have no limits. Kamsa, he's not just one single person, Father. He had a very big group. Dantavakra, Jarasandha, Shishupal, the Bana and Bhoja dynasties. They're all demoniac. So now, after having killed Kamsa, I have to carefully watch how they're going to behave with me. What are they going to do? And moreover, you know that Kamsa, he's the son-in-law of Jarasandha. After Kamsa's death, his two wives, Asti and Prapti, who we've spoke about in some of our previous discussions, the two wives of organized religion, mechanical religion. Asti meaning everything is okay, now you remember. And Prapti meaning you'll get this and that from organized religion. Those two wives, they went to their father's house crying. And they're going to tell their father how I killed Kamsa. And seeing the pitiful condition of his newly widowed daughters, Jarasandha is going to become very angry. And definitely, Baba, he's going to attack me. Father, if I go back to Vrindavan now, then Jarasandha will follow me there to try to kill me. And if he goes to Vrindavan, Father, it'll only take a few minutes for him to destroy Vrindavan. He's going to come with a great army. All the plants and creepers will become destroyed. They'll destroy the trees and all the residents of Vrindavan. Everyone will become disturbed. He said, Father, if I stay here, then I don't need to worry about Jarasandha. You don't need to worry about me. There's a big army here. We have a big, strong fort. And we two brothers, we can defeat that rascal very easily. You be peaceful. You be confident. Things will be okay for us here. I've put Ugrasena on the throne. You may say, well, Ugrasena, he can be the king. But Ugrasena is an old man. And the two of us, we're going to have to stay here to carry out all the duties. So the Akrura Samvad says that while Nanda Maharaja and Krishna were speaking in this way, at that time Vasudeva came. And we heard something about, in our last session, about Nanda Maharaj and how he had such a soft heart and how he was worried about the feelings of Vasudeva. And that's the quality of a high-class person. We spoke in some previous sessions about three types of discussions, Vada, Jalpa, and Vitanda. Vada means of discussion in the mode of goodness. Jalpa is in passion. And Vitanda is in ignorance. In a Jalpa or a Vitanda discussion, you don't listen to the other person. It's like Facebook, right? You just want everybody to listen to your understanding. And when you hear someone say something, then you look in the filing cabinet in your brain. Oh, he said this. What's my response to that? And you pull out a folder. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to say in response to that. And it's an automatic response without understanding the heart of the person. So these associates of Krishna, they're not like that. Nanda Maharaj is not like that. And Vasudeva is not like that. Vasudeva came there seeing Nanda Maharaj with Krishna and Balaram. What did he say? Vasudeva told him, my dear brother, Ram and Krishna, Balaram and Krishna, they're the loving sons of Braj. And I know they'll be very happy there in Braj. But my dear brother, please consider, neither of them, they haven't had Upanayanam. They haven't gotten Gayatri Mantra. Now, this is a time for them. They're 11 years of age. It's time for them to become brahmacharis. And I find it very interesting that the Bhagavatam, the 46th chapter, describes how when Krishna goes to Mathura, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is the place where there's some Aishvarya mixed with this understanding. There's a sense of understanding of the Lord's opulent feature of God, and mixed with a little bit of sweetness. In Vrindavan, Krishna's not a brahmachari. Although there's some discussion about that. Our Guru Maharaj sometimes said Krishna Nitya Brahmachari. That's another discussion. The gopis were very confused when they heard that. But when he goes to Mathura, now he has to become a brahmachari. He should get his upanayanam. Vasudeva was saying like this to Nanda Maharaj, we have to care for them. And if you give your permission now, I'll arrange that. Vasudeva spoke in such a sweet way. He didn't try to insist, don't you know, Krishna belongs to us. He's the son of Devaki. He's not the son of Yashoda. He didn't speak like that. He was very, very caring. Just like we heard in the previous session, how Nanda Maharaj spoke to Vasudeva, and he addressed Vasudeva as a real father of Krishna. And he agreed with what they were saying in Mathura, although Nanda Maharaj didn't believe it for a moment. And we also heard that discussion between Nanda Maharaj and Krishna. And when Krishna came to Nanda Maharaj, to his father, he said, Bappa, they say you're not really my father. And Nanda Maharaj began to cry. And then he said, do you believe them? And Krishna said, no, you're always our father. But as Jiva Goswami pointed out, that conversation took place privately, and Vasudeva wasn't there. And on another occasion, when Krishna and Balaram spoke with Vasudeva, they also spoke with him privately, and they addressed him as Pita, as father. So this is the nature of Krishna and Balaram, and this is the nature of Nanda Maharaj. He didn't go to argue. He addressed Vasudeva, yes, you're the father of Krishna. Because he understands, he has that very, very strong mamata, that very strong identity. I'm the father of Krishna. He understands it because he has that himself. But he's so sweet, he didn't go to argue with him. Rather, he spoke in such a sweet way. And Vasudeva also, he's coming to Nanda Maharaj, and he says, the first thing he says is that Rama and Krishna, they're the sons of Vrindavan. And I know they'll be very happy there. But you should know, they need to get upanayanam. And if you give your permission, then I'll arrange that. When Nanda Maharaj heard the words of Vasudeva, he became quiet. He couldn't say a single word. But he was looking. And he noted that Krishna wasn't arguing with Vasudeva. And Nanda Maharaj could understand that Krishna agreed with that. Beautiful lesson in this also. We should look to Gurudev to see what Gurudev wants, not just what I want. Oh, Gurudev, we want you to come to your home, to our home. We want to feed you. We want to do this and that. We should look to him and see, is he being quiet? And if he's being quiet, or maybe he's looking at a little something in his face, we should be very subtle and understand the heart of Gurudev, the heart of Krishna. And Nanda Maharaj can see this. Krishna was agreeing with Vasudeva. So Nanda Maharaj didn't say anything. He just got up and he left the place and he was crying and crying. And he thought to himself, what Vasudeva and Krishna said is correct. But he was thinking, what will I say to the residents of Vrindavan? What will happen to them there? Krishna, Jiva Goswami and Gopal Campu says that Krishna told Nanda Maharaj at that time, Bappa, this separation will only go on until all the enemies are killed. Then I'm going to return to Vrindavan. And then when I return, I won't leave again. Because I'll have the topmost goal of my life, the fruit of all happiness, by seeing you. You who possess the most pure, intense love. But now, I request that you please follow these words. You return to Vrindavan. Nanda Maharaj listened to Krishna. And he was thinking, okay, this is some logic Krishna is saying. And it's correct. But Nanda Maharaj wasn't pleased by it. And Jiva Goswami says, then Nanda Maharaj began to beat his head. And he spoke unclearly with tears. In other words, Nanda Maharaj was listening to Krishna. And he was thinking, okay, this is logical. I can't argue with this. I don't like it. But then something else came to the mind of Nanda Maharaj. And what did he say then? Bhavan mata tuvam akattam iyad budyatam. Your mother will be opposed to this. What can I say to her? What will I say to your mother? And then Krishna said, Father, don't worry. I'll send her a letter. I'll give her great respect. I'll send that letter to my friends. You won't have to say anything. And then with his own hand, Krishna wrote a letter and he gave it to Sridham. Why did he give it to Sridham? Jiva Goswami doesn't say, but who is Sridham? Sridham is the older brother of Srimati Radharani. And Yashoda Rani has so much love for Radharani. And anyone who's connected with Radharani, she has love for. So understanding this, that Sridham would be the best messenger. Madhumangal was the first messenger that Krishna sent with letters. But now, these letters are more serious because Krishna is thinking to stay in Vrindavan. When Sridham saw Nanda Maharaj's mood and how he was obedient to Krishna's desire, then Sridham at that time, he put that letter down and in a choked voice he said to Krishna, Krishna, by the strength of the love of your father, by the strength of his service to you, on that strength, I'll go in the morning. Otherwise, I have no strength. And that letter, what did it say? Krishna wrote to his mother, Ayehin kshira bhaktam ganadhari valata rotika tasya paschat tat paschat dugda pupam tad anu bahuvidanadyam anyesu chanyat matar mayam nikaye mahati rasayate paryaveshi tvayayan naswapnastanna vatat Purana mayamiti smaryatam kim tu satyam. He wrote in a way that Sridham was thinking, what does this mean? He said, Tat paschat dugda pupam. On the first day, there was rice with milk. On the second day, there was roti with ghee. On the third day, there was sweets soaked in sweet milk. And then Bahu vidana adyam, on other days, anyesu chanyat, there were other various foods. Matar mayam. Mother, you feed all these things to me in the big room. And you serve me in so many ways. Naswapnas tannavat tatspuranamayam. Don't think that this was a dream. Naswapnas. Don't think it was a dream. Don't think it was a spurti. Just some temporary appearance. Iti smaryatam kim tu satyam. Mother, it's real. And then the letter went on. Yavanasnasi matastvam iti nishamaye hanta nasnani tavad yad yasnamaiva taryapi anubhavad asumeye sarva sosamiyu goshtam gachani pashyani apai nijagajaninan tadvidam evam eva yudyat teja prakasad ripuganam acharat ut sahishe vijetum. And in his letter to his mother, Krishna said, Mother, as long as you don't eat, I won't eat. You should know, I'm coming there. I'm eating what you're offering. And if I am aware that you're eating, if I'm aware that if you're eating, and then I'm happy. But if you're not eating, then my heart is going to dry up. Mother, you should know, I'm going to come soon. Ayasya, I'm going to return just as soon as I kill my enemies. Mother, it won't be long. Teja Prakash, as soon as I show my enemies, Ripu Gana, the Ripu means the enemies, as soon as I show them my strength, then I'll return. And the Bhagavatam describes then, Krishna told Nanda Maharaj, Yata yuyam brajamna tattavayam cha snehadukitan gyatin yodrastum eshyamo vidaya suridam sukam. He said, Yata yuyam, all of you, speaking to all the Brijbasis who were there with Nanda Maharaj and Mathura, he said, Brajan tattavayam. My dear father, you should return to Vrindavan now. And Papa, we'll come to see you. We'll come very soon after we've given some happiness. And Krishna speaks in a very clever way, in a very sweet way. He says, Suridam Sukam. To your friends, after Vidaya Suridam Sukam, after we give Vidaya, Suridam Sukam, to your friends, some happiness. These are your friends here in Mathura. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Sarita Darshini says that Nanda Maharaj was thinking, what can I do? Maybe I can take Balaram back to Vrindavan. Krishna won't return, but I can take Balaram. And if I take Balaram back to Vrindavan, everyone's going to become so happy. But if I do that, the Yadavas and Vasudev will suffer so much distress from me. And if I do that, it'll be very sinful for me. Vasudeva will think, oh, Kamsa killed all my sons, and the one son who was protected from his hands, Balaram, has been taken by Nanda to Braj. This Nanda's not my friend, he'll think. He'll think that Nanda's like a second Kamsa for me. And in this way, Vasudeva will experience so much terrible pain, and he'll curse me thousands of times over. And then in that situation, how will I enjoy any happiness? How will Krishna enjoy any happiness without Balaram? Nanda Maharaj became confused. And he stood there silently for several minutes, lost in such thoughts. And then Krishna addressed him with this verse. Papa, you should go to Vrindavan. And myself, and Balaram. And Vishwanath says a very interesting thing, which will come up more later. My friends, like Madhu Mangal, will go to Vrindavan later. But for now, we'll stay in Mathura for a few days. Rupa Goswami, in his Alita Madhav, he says that Madhu Mangal was the son of Sandapani Muni, and that Krishna rescued Madhu Mangal and brought him back, and Madhu Mangal went with him to Dwarka. That's another discussion. Understanding that Nanda Maharaj was going to ask when he was going to return to Vrindavan, Krishna told him this answer. After I give happiness to your friends headed by Vasudeva, so that no one will find fault with you, then, Father, we're going to come home to Vrindavan. But first, we're going to unite Balaram with Vasudeva and Devaki so that they can pamper him and stroke him and express their affection to their heart's content. And then after we finish all of our necessary work and we make everyone happy, then we'll come back to Braj. Krishna speaking this verse, it has a very, very deep purport, because Krishna knows how soft the heart of his Father is. Already Krishna has indicated that, Father, we have to stay here to kill demons. But Krishna understands that Nanda Maharaj is not so impressed by that, the demons, Vinashaya Chaduskritam. He's not so impressed by this Dharma Samstapana that Krishna may do. But Nanda Maharaj's heart is so soft. Parittanaya sadhunam. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this is the principal reason why Krishna comes. And these other reasons, Vinashaya Taduskritam Dharma Samstarpanartaya, these are done by his Vasudeva expansion. So Nanda Maharaj, he understands, Krishna understands that Nanda Maharaj's heart is so soft, and that if I tell him that we're doing this, we want to stay behind because we want to give happiness to your well-wishing friends, that what will Nanda Maharaj say then? In Laghu Vaishnav Toshini, Jiva Goswami says that Krishna consoled Nanda Maharaj and told him to go to Braj. And he used the plural, vayam, in the verse, meaning that later, Uddhava first, and then Balaram will go to Braj, and then I'll also personally go there after I've given happiness to Vasudeva and the others who they think that I'm their son. And to make them happy, I'll broadcast myself as their son. And in this way, I'll make the Yadus, the members of the Yadu dynasty, happy. The Pandavas, I'll make them happy. And I'll achieve my goal of killing all the demons until the death of Dantavakra. And Jiva Goswami says that Krishna's telling him that if I suddenly go with you, then maybe Vasudeva will lose affection for me. I don't know. It's possible, because he hardly ever saw me, only as a small baby. But Father, if I leave you, your affection for me won't decrease even in 1,000,000 kalpas. So we'll come, we'll see him. When we return to Vrindavan, we'll stay there. We won't leave again. And Krishna says, since overcome by compassion, you should know we live eternally in Vrindavan. When Krishna says, uses the word vidhaya, we give some happiness to your friends, he's actually, Jiva Goswami says, he's showing some indifference to that act. And he's indicating that actually staying with Nanda Maharaj and the Brijbasis is really the heart of Krishna. And giving happiness to Vasudeva and the friends of Nanda Maharaj, that's optional. But he's also indicating it's going to be very, very painful. And so he's indicating indirectly that Uddhava will produce a manifestation, he says, of Krishna's apricot lila. Uddhava is going to produce this manifestation of Krishna's apricot lila, which is equal to Krishna's direct appearance. Now, this is a very important point, which I want to return to later on in our discussion. It has great purport to the meeting of Krishna and the Brijbasis in Kurukshetra. But Jiva Goswami says that indirectly this is saying that Krishna is going to return to Vrindavan after he kills Dantavakra, but Nanda Maharaj couldn't understand all this at that time. But gradually he began to understand because he's meditating completely on the words of Krishna. Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Vaishnava Toshini says that Krishna was consoling Nanda Maharaj and telling him go to Vrindavan, and that later we'll return to Vrindavan, we'll come to see you. And he's indicating that actually, Father, you should understand those Yadus, they're not really our relatives, and you're more important to us. And we're going to return because we can't repay you. And this is confirmed in the 10th canto. Sanatana Goswami says, by Krishna's words, like Napariyaham niravadya samyujam, I can't repay you. I'm in debt to you. So I'll come to see you. Not to pacify you fully, that won't work, because you're suffering, since you have so much affection for me. And you don't get any happiness in not seeing me. Or even if you see me in some spurti, it's not possible to make you happy. Jiva Goswami and Gopal Campu, he says that at that time, Nanda Maharaj sent a messenger to Mother Yashoda. And that messenger returned, and with the letter that Sri Dhamma had written, it was sent to Mother Yashoda. And the messenger returned with a message from Yashoda back. And the message came that Krishna is true. Yashoda speaks about how you're eating every day, and she cries and she thinks it's like a dream. And she's been hiding the fact that she's not eating, fearing that it'll cause you some suffering. So in our next session, which will be on Sunday, we'll hear something more about this conversation between Nanda Maharaj and Krishna, and Nanda asking, what about the cows of Vrindavan? How will they exist without you? And what about your friends? And what about your servants? And what happened at that time? So now my humble request to the devotees is, if they have some reflection, they can share what you hopefully gained from this discussion today. We have some paraspara. And if anybody online has something, if not, perhaps some of the devotees here have something. Otherwise we'll stop. Raghava Prabhu is saying, that's a lot of hay. I mean, it's a lot of hay you have to feed the cows. 100 quadrillion cows, just the calves. Gloria, Hare Krishna, nice to see you here today. She says she got straight A's in math and have determined the odds are quite astronomical for a Christian to see Krishna, whereas for a devotee to see Christ. That's a nice comment. Yes, I would totally agree with that. It's there's no reason for quarrel between the devotees of Krishna and the devotees of Christ. But my observation, like yours, is similar. Maybe not always exactly like that, but that in general, it's easier for the devotees to appreciate Christ and maybe perhaps even see him than for the Christians to see Krishna. And perhaps that's due to something which we should bear in mind. And that's due to that their religion is not just their own personal relationship with the Lord, which is what it should be. It should be the most private, intimate thing in the world. But their relationship is influenced by some social consideration, some institutional consideration. And therefore this kind of sectarianism comes up. Hare Krishna, Natalia, nice to see you here today. And Leela Avatar Mataji. Madhupati Prabhu has given some question. Is this the way Krishna gives pure love? By causing pangs of separation? Why does he cause such pain to those he loves the most? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur addresses this in one of his purports, and he says there that someone may become confused and they may say that it's not true. Krishna doesn't really love the residents of Vrindavan. The proof is that he stayed in Mathura. He loves them more. If he really loves the gopis, if they're the topmost devotees, he would never leave them. Why is he staying in Mathura? That's the proof that he doesn't love them. Vishnu says, don't think like that. It's wrong. He says, he gives an example. He says that just as a goldsmith heats gold to melt the gold, and by melting that gold, then he shows the purity of that gold. In the same way, Krishna, wanting to reciprocate with the gopis, naparyeham nidavadya samyujam, wanting to repay his debt, he had to, as Krishna says in that same verse, yapratiyatu sadhuna, let your own behavior be your glory. He had to glorify those gopis by experiencing their feelings himself, and also by advertising, by broadcasting the glories of them. If it hadn't been for Krishna doing that, who would have known about the glories of the gopis of Vrindavan and their love? So Krishna did this, and moreover, he did it also to increase their love. Because Vrindavana paritiga padikam nagachati, as we'll discuss, I think perhaps in our next session, Krishna actually returned with Nanda Maharaj. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this in a very esoteric way. Krishna returned with Nanda Maharaj and he never left. He's always there in Vrindavan. That's a very difficult thing to understand. But he hides himself to increase the love of the Brijbasis, because Krishna sees, especially at that place known as Prem Sarovar near to Barsana. Krishna saw that when Srimati Radharani, she's sitting on his lap. But when Madhu Mangal said, now the bumblebee, Madhusudan, is gone. He drove away this bumblebee. Radharani felt more pangs. She felt so much separation. She's with Krishna. And Krishna's thinking to himself that the nature of the love of the gopis of Vrindavan is very crooked. They feel separation when there's union. And when there's separation, they feel more union. Therefore, I have to leave to increase their love. Leela Avatar Mataji's commented, so much love, this relationship between Krishna, Vasudeva, and Nanda Maharaja is such a beautiful thing. And Raghavaji's written some question, why would anyone want to become Krishna's devotee if we look at the gopis' pangs of separation? This is the biggest question, in my humble opinion. And my opinion is based on my humble attempt at studying the works of our Goswamis. And the central topic that I find repeatedly in the books of our Goswamis, in the Lita Madhav, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Ujjwal Nilamani, in so many of the books of our Goswamis, is Krishna's leaving Vrindavan. And how do we understand this? And so they've answered that in so many ways. In Lita Madhav, Krishna answers that actually they never left Vrindavan at all, and it was all just an illusion. So why would anyone want to become Krishna's devotee if we look at the gopis' pangs of separation? Well, one answer to that question might also be that Krishna is hiding, in one sense, the gopis' love by leaving Vrindavan, and then people, they don't understand the gopis. And in this way, he's protecting the gopis. He's covering that over. He's making it a very, very special thing. But of course, for those devotees who are in our line, who are Rupa Nugas in the line of Rupa Goswami, they understand those feelings are everything. Sanjay Prabhu has said, why Krishna didn't make frequent visits to Vrindavan? We'll hear more about that. He didn't make frequent visits to Vrindavan because he was always in Vrindavan. He never left. Vrindavana parichiga padikam nagachat. He didn't even take one step out of Vrindavan. And as we'll hear from Vishwanath, I think in our next session, Krishna actually returned with Nanda Maharaja. How that is, that's a very, very esoteric thing. And it's also said by Krishna that Krishna was always there with the gopis. And we'll hear more about this. This is Krishna's message through Uddhava. This is Krishna's words to the gopis in Kurukshetra. We'll get to that point later. Natalia has made some comment. The Brijbasis could stay alive for Krishna, yes. And this is something also coming up when we'll hear from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that when Nanda Maharaj returns to Vrindavan, all the Brijbasis, when they heard that Krishna didn't come back. Now, how is it that he came back? I just said he came back, but then he didn't come back. What does it mean? That's a very esoteric thing. We'll address that. But on one side, he didn't come back. On another side, he did come back. Very esoteric. But when the Brijbasis heard from Nanda Maharaj that Krishna didn't come back, they all decided to commit suicide. And what is it that changed their mind? Nanda Maharaj told them, don't do that. If you do that, it'll break Krishna's heart. You have to stay alive for him to return and show that you remembered his promise, Ayasya, I'm going to return. So like that. Thank you, Natalia, and thank you, everyone else. And I think Krishna Kun has some reflection to share with us.
Oh, Krishna. Wow. I wanted to just thank you for really, it was beautiful to speak about Mother Yashoda's, Krishna's letter to Yashoda and Mother Yashoda's answer, and this exchange with Nanda Maharaj. It really, really very deeply touches my heart. One sentence that Krishna said that really caught my attention was, if you are not eating if you are not eating, Mother, then my heart is going to dry up. And one of the reasons it caught my attention is because it's clear from this statement, as we know, that Krishna is not eating the food that Mother Yashoda is giving him. He's eating the love that she's giving him. And it's for the food that he's eating, it's for the heart. And of course, this is not even just in Vrindavan, it's everywhere else. And it reminded me of that story about Duryodhana and Vidura, and how Krishna didn't want to go to the house of Duryodhana to eat, because he said that I eat because I'm hungry, or I eat because someone is offering something with love. I'm not hungry and you don't have love, so why should I go? So he went to Vidura instead. So even outside Vrindavan, even in the material world, you have experience. So Mother is cooking and you have to take, because there is no choice, it's the exchange, even if you are not hungry. The other thing is, I wanted to ask about Madhu Mangal. My friends like Balaram and Madhu Mangal will stay with me, and Madhu Mangal is the son of Sandipani Muni, and he stayed with Krishna after Krishna rescued him. So how is that? You made a comment on that, because he's also Nanda Muni, some say. So in that form he also stayed there, or am I getting? And okay, I have a few other reflections, but maybe this question first.
Madhu Mangal's return to Vrindavan is mentioned, I think, by Sanatana Goswami, that Madhu Mangal returned. It's a little confusing because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Rupa Goswami indicate that Madhu Mangal is there with Krishna and Dwarka. Now, how can we understand these two apparently contradictory points? I would offer two ways. One is that, as we hear from Vishwanath, Nanda Maharaj and Krishna and Madhu Mangal and Balaram, they all returned to Vrindavan. But at the same time, they stayed in Mathura, and we'll discuss how that is later. It's a big topic. That's one consideration. And the other consideration is that the Madhu Mangal stayed there, and in that way, Madhu Mangal and all the associates of the Lord, their whole purpose is to enhance a particular mood of the pastimes. And as we'll hear from Jiva Goswami's Gopal Campu later, when Krishna is a brahmachari in Sandipani Muni's ashram, every night nobody can understand. There's nobody he can speak to. The gopis, they could speak to the other gopis, but Krishna's all alone. And he's crying every night. And he's whispering to Balaram, and they're talking about the Brijbasis and like that. So perhaps Madhu Mangal's also helping with that. Definitely Rupa Goswami and Lalita Madhav says that Madhu Mangal is Krishna's intimate companion there in Dwarka and in Never Vrindavan. That's all I can really comment.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. I also really like this point that Krishna was telling Nanda Maharaj, we are going to return because we cannot repay you otherwise. It's not just to pacify you. Even if you see me in Spurti, but you will never be happy, even if you see me in Spurti. It's not possible to make you happy in any other way, and he has to reciprocate. So there's no question, we have to return. That was really beautiful, I really liked it. And also how he said that if you, this trust that if I go, although I didn't understand why is it that it's a big problem for him, that Vasudev may stop having affection for him. But he said that if I go, then maybe you can address that. But he did say that if I go back with you, then Vasudev may stop having affection for me. But if I stay, your affection, 100 million years, will never stop. And I was just thinking, what kind of trust Krishna has in his father's love. Never mind the gopis and Srimati Radharani. And this is the kind of trust that we need to inspire in Krishna towards us if we want to enter Vrindavan. So please, dear Vaishnavas, give me your mercy.
What was Krishna's words to Nanda Maharaj at the time? What was his purpose? His purpose was to further explain to Nanda Maharaj why he needs to stay in Mathura. And Father, if I leave now, who knows? Maybe Vasudeva may forget about me. I'm not really sure. His love's not that strong. I'm not really. But you, if I stay here, I know in 100 million years, your love won't diminish whatsoever. So I can stay here and your love will continue. He's indicating like that. So I'm indicating in another way that this love is the most important thing. And Krishna's controlled by this love. Okay?
Yeah, there's so many other things.
Anupayani, do you have something?
Okay, then I will say one more.
Okay.
That Krishna knows that Nanda Maharaj is not very impressed by the fact that he has to kill all these demons. But he is not impressed but touched in the heart when he starts speaking about how Vasudeva will suffer so much if I take, all his other sons died and even we go back. Balaram is his only live son and from Rohini, and he knows what to say to Nanda Maharaj that will actually touch his heart. The previous arguments didn't do anything for him. So it also means that the Brijbasis, they are heart persons. They are not, to me, it's like you come out of Vrindavan and there is knowledge. That knowledge means also logic. So you come out of Vrindavan to Mathura and then next to the sweetness there is knowledge of his opulence and there is logic. So maybe others would have been convinced by the argument that he has to kill the demons, that's why he came, Paritran Sadhunam Vinashaya Dushkritam. But Nanda Maharaj, he's just convinced by the heart argument. So that was catching my attention.
Yeah, I didn't really elaborate on that so much at the point, but I make a further comment that from that we can see that the devotees are not so worried about killing the demons and destroying evil. They're more concerned about paying attention to love, and they're more concerned about seeing the suffering of others. Their business is not to go out and defeat all the evil in this world. Rather, they want to promote love, and they understand that's the real solution. Okay? Anything more?
You have something?
I have a question if you can tell them.
Okay, one more thing, because this is so good. This was so good that seeing how Krishna is just looking at how seeing that Krishna is just quiet when Vasudeva is speaking, and Nanda Maharaj is seeing that he's agreeing to what he's saying, that he has to become a brahmachari, he has to stay, and just by seeing how Krishna is quiet, Nanda Maharaj understands that actually Krishna wants to stay. And this for me is very big, to one day try to understand how our Guru Janas feel by just looking at them, without them saying anything, without having any, sometimes sidelong glances and other kind of glances, okay, a wave of hand, whatever, so that we actually understand what is in their heart, what their desire is for me to do. That's the biggest aspiration, so this really made an impression.
Thank you. Nice comment. Very nice comments, Krishna. Anupayani, you had something? Yeah, very quickly. I like very much devotees have reflections. That's a question.
That Krishna Kun already took all the points which I wanted to share also, but anyway, thank you so much. It was nice to hear it from you. I have a question. So about this exchange, about this letter to Yashoda, that Krishna said, "I will not eat if you will not eat, and my heart will dry if you're not eating." I heard so many times that when Krishna left Vrindavan, so the residents of Vrindavan, they stopped to eat, they stopped to change their clothes, they stopped to do anything. So, and after this letter, did they start to eat?
There is more coming.
Yeah, different descriptions are given in different places. On one side, we could say that these are not necessarily all historical events, in the sense that what may be being stressed is feelings, that they just stopped eating. It doesn't necessarily mean from one perspective that they stopped, but from another perspective, it may also mean that they stopped. And therefore, as we've commented, as we tried to show, we should reconcile different things from our acaryas when they make different types of comments. It doesn't mean we should become confused. Oh, this one's saying this and this other one's saying something different. We can accept both. As Sanatana Goswami was saying in a previous purport, that sometimes these things happen in different Dibya Yugas, in different ways. But they always happen in response to affection. And this is why Krishna's behaving the way he is in Mathura, in a certain way. That's the type of affection they have there. And in Vrindavan is another type of affection. And so all these topics really, it's about love. So we'll go ahead and stop there. We'll be back again on Sunday at the same time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai.